This is
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Let's go, Meat Boys, episode 238. We're off to the Arabian Peninsula for this one. Before we jump into this week's locks, as always, timestamps in the comments if you want to get straight to it. But last week, Meat Boy, was UFC 322, episode 237. We both kind of killed it, right? Went 4-2 each of us. But I want to reflect on the high confidence, heavy hammer, easy W of a meat lock that we got with our boy Islam Makhachev. We essentially said it was going to be start to finish domination over JDM, whether it was all 5 rounds, whether it was simply 5 minutes. Either way, easy light work meat lock. What did you make of Islam's domination, and is anyone going to be able to beat Islam?
Yeah, man, that's gonna be a tough one. I mean, Islam. I mean, what a lock can we say? But wow, Islam is no joke. To where it's like, can Hamzat even beat him? Can John Jones even beat him? I don't know. I don't know what his ceiling is, but he just seems like a unicorn. He seems like the true predecessor of Khabib, and it makes me just think that that fight with Volkanovski, where Volk did really good, it clearly showed how much weight he was cutting and how weak he was. Because once he got a nice, better weight cut, I mean, he took out Volk's soul in about a couple minutes. So yeah, no more doubting that in my opinion. It just shows how intense those weight cuts are and what that does to the depleted body. It makes you pretty dang weak. Because we just saw him at full max power and holy smokes. Yeah, I just don't know who's going to beat that guy. Like, I feel bad for 155 and I feel bad for 170. They're cooked. Like, they're just so cooked.
Yeah, it's funny because on this card that we're breaking down tonight, it's the best of the best in both of those divisions, and it still seems as though even the best of the last two fights from this Saturday, I don't even know if those guys will be able to compete with Islam. And you mentioned the idea of Hamzat. Would love to see it. Hamzat kind of posted that cryptic message on Instagram. He said, "The wolf and the eagle are not always close, but when you need to protect the mountains, they will always protect together." So an unstated, we're not going to be fighting each other situation going on between Hamzat and Islam. But I'm with you. It seems like that's the only competitive fight at this point. I don't see anyone else taking out Islam, especially knowing how easy light work he just took out JDM. So we were all over that one. We were all over Shevchenko over Wei Li. I thought the fight would be a little bit more competitive, but like we said, Valentina dominated and manhandled Manon Fiorot, who's massive. Why wouldn't she do the same to a strawweight? And we kind of nailed that one as well. Same question: is anyone gonna be able to beat Valentina? And should she just go up to 35 and challenge Kayla Harrison? Like, what else are we gonna do with her at this point?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a good question. What are we going to do with her? Because I don't know if there is a challenge for the Bullet. The Bullet is just so freaking good. And, I mean, it just shows that, like, the girls, there's a reason why there's a weight class. And I don't think Dana's going to, be too excited about any of these women going up or down a weight class for a while. So that was just an eye opener, I think, for the league, for the casuals. We already knew how that was going to go. Uh, and yeah, it's pretty much exactly how we thought.
Yeah, all over that one. Both title fights had good intel from you boys, but either way, a couple other bangers. Bo Nickel took out Rodolfo Vieira, easy light work, start to finish. Ultimately got the finish for himself. You were all over Benoit Saint-Denis. He got it done in 16 seconds. I thought Benny would be far more competitive, but I obviously overestimated that one. And then obviously Protest versus Edwards. I had Protest, you had Edwards. Mike Mo versus Sean Brady. Thankfully, we ultimately settled on the easy, high confidence meat lock that was Islam instead of the micro lock, as we called it, Sean Brady, because Sean Brady got smoked. You start reading into the tea leaves a little bit. You saw Petrosky get knocked out by a hip blaster. I don't know. I don't. What do you make of that? And were you surprised by the Sean Brady performance against Mike Mo?
Yeah, it was truly unfortunate. I mean, I called it where it's like, yo, if he doesn't shoot at all, he needs to be under investigation, and I hope that does happen now, because that's just crazy. Sean Brady has lost 100% of the fights he does not attempt, not get to take down, just attempt to take down. He loses them all when he tries to stand and bang. It's 2 for 2, 2 for 2 sus fights, and everyone else that he attempts to grapple, he wins. So it almost seems like a no-brainer on basic game plan, and then he decides to go full, shill, I guess, and just cheat everybody. I don't know. It just made no sense. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know if he's a dork and he thought he could strike or something. But like, bro, you're a grappler. Do what you do best. Like, did you see Islam try to grapple the whole time? Yes, he. I mean, strike the whole time. No, he did his bread and butter where he knew he could just dominate JDM. So yeah, I don't know what that was. That was just sus all over it.
Let us know in the comments if we're reading too much into the inaction of Sean Brady and perhaps neglecting the flip side, which was an amazing performance from Mike Morales. But something weird was going on that one. Something weird is seemingly sometimes going on with that squad. Let's keep going though, meat boy, because we could belabor that all day. Swap us through though, because it's the meat lock. You see the text, and this one I'm curious to hear from you on because it's a high confidence meat lock, and Bexat AlmaKhan is a pick'em against Alexandre Topuria, aka Bropuria, and we have been keen on fading nepotism when we think it's apt, and in this contest we're doing just that. We're going with Bexat AlmaKhan, aka LockZot AlmaKhan, because we think that the context points to a sneaky W for him in this one, because it's a fight that's buried on the prelims, right? You have Topuria's little bro. You would think that the UFC would want to put him in an advantageous position against a bad opponent higher on the card if they thought they could make something out of him. But we think it's the flip side on this one in that they're trying to elevate the stock of LockZot in this one, because LockZot is a dude you have to remember who stepped in on 5 seconds notice, debut UFC fight against Umar, and he went the distance with him, and one could argue it was one of Umar's more competitive fights. I mean, it was a clear victory for Umar. It was a unanimous decision, but Bexat really showcased his worth in that debut and continued that momentum with an easy light work first minute finish over Brad Katana, who is by no means a future champ, but is a guy with a lot of wins in the division and is a solid levels test who got absolutely smoked in 5 seconds by LockZot. So we're seeing this one as a sneaky pick'em LockZot lock over Bropuria, who, again, the dude is 5-1, barely fights. His best win is against a guy named Colby Thickness, and he got slept by Ivo Ivanov, who hasn't even fought since 2017. The dude basically retired after sleeping Bropuria. So, what are your thoughts on this meat lock? How easy is LockZot going to get this one done? And what do you make of Tapology, who is overwhelmingly bullish on Bropuria?
Yeah, bro, Puria, man. I don't know. I'm not buying the hype. I don't think he is Torpuria. It's just like um Muhammad Usman is not Kamaru Usman. That's kind of where I'll leave it at that. And so this is nothing but a lock, easy, light work. Torpuria is going down, and he'll just live in bro's shadows apparently.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where John Anik said over the weekend, the odds makers designed odds for two-way action, right? And it seems that Tapology is in complete agreement that this should be a pick'em. In fact, maybe they would argue that it should be a fat favorite for Topuria because 64% is rolling with him. Only 36% is rolling with us and this LockZot meat lock. But we're starting to see that the Tapology doesn't always equate to the outcome because in this one, it's a high confidence meat lock. Truly believe that AlmaKhan is going to be much more well-rounded, will have a much better gas tank, and Topuria, there's a reason why this fight is buried where it is, and there's a reason why he's getting such a difficult opponent in his second fight. So we think this screams opportunity. We'll keep it simple nonetheless. Throw it on an easy 110 to net 100. Islam gave us some solid wiggle room last weekend with the heavy hammer, and we'll keep things going this week. Officially, meat boy, a lot of the Tapology backers who are taking LockZot think decision is most likely. What are your thoughts on him gassing Topuria out and perhaps picking up a finish in the second or third round? Is it possible?
Yeah, I mean, I think he get a beat Taporia first round KO, second round KO. I mean, Taporia just got knocked out within the last couple of years. That was one of his most recent losses. And he's fresh to the UFC. While this guy went head to head with Umar, that's no job. That's no easy task. And so this guy is definitely the real deal. And honestly, I could totally see a big levels test and an exposure on this fight.
Yeah, to put a pin in it, Topuria, two of his wins, right? His second finish, Topuria's was Alberto Ibanez, who is 1-9, right? He also finished Lucas Tenorio, who's 7-18. So a majority of this guy's wins, yes, he went the distance with thickness a couple months ago, but majority of his wins are first round sleepers against dudes with 10%, 30% winning percentages. Whereas LockZot, his only loss is a decision loss to Umar Nurmagomedov, aka one of the best. So if he thinks Topuria is going to go in here and just sleep MEATLOCK in the very first minute, like he's able to do against fighters with 1 out of 10 wins, I think the dude is tripping. So we'll keep it simple on this one again. Throwing down 110, net 100. LockZot by finish is officially the call. Any last thoughts on this, MEATLOCK?
No, this is an absolute lock. That is a fact.
Let us know if we're tripping or if this is in fact Muhammad Usman and not quite Walter Walker. We'll eat the crow if so, but either way, swap us through. Me boy Shamil Gaziv is taking on Sergey Spivak, aka the Polar Bear, and Polar Bear's a plus 124 dog in this one against the former volleyball superstar out of Dagestan, Shamil Gaziv, who many online are calling the Blob. They're saying this dude is the GOAT. He's 14-1, a minus 160 favorite, and his only loss was that weird one against Jairzinho earlier in 2024 where he gassed out in 5 seconds and ultimately Jairzinho, aka Biggie Boy, took him into deep waters in a fight that we missed. We were all over Gaziv in that one and he kind of disappointed us, but since then he's really rediscovered that sauce, smoked Dontel Mays, and then finished our boy Thomas Peterson in the very first round. So Gaziv seemingly is back. The public thinks he's back. But he's taking on Spivak, who is 17-6, a dude who's always been a tough level test in heavyweight, but he has lost 3 of 4, and the most recent loss was when he lost to Waldo Cortez in a fight that was low-key kind of close, and arguably he maybe even won. So is there perhaps a little bit of recency bias? Are the odds makers looking too deeply into the recent losses for Spivak and overinflating the recent W's of Happy Schmiel? Or is Shamil, aka the Blob, really the GOAT as the people are saying, and Polar Bear is getting smoked again?
Yeah, the blob is he could absolutely be the real deal, but I gotta go with polar bear on this because polar bears eat blobs for breakfast, and that's the logic for the day.
74% is rolling with Gaziv. They think that the Blob will blob the Polar Bear. Only 26% is going with Spivak. So if you're bullish on Spivak, what gives you confidence and where stylistically is he going to have the advantages over Gaziv, who is a big dude? He smushes dudes via the wrestling. Is Spivak going to be sneaky defensively sound there, or do you see him overwhelming Gaziv? Like, what's Spivak's pathway if there is one?
Yeah, I mean Spivak has to do what Spivak always does, which is grapple, ground and pound, maybe submit. So he's got to get one of those, but this is gonna be a hard one to do. But I believe in him.
Yeah, it's a tough one for me because I don't know. I just feel like Gaziv is just bigger and blobbier, and I'd struggle to find a world where Spivak's going to be able to just ragdoll him like he has against other opponents. He did, however, do so against Marcin Tybura, right? So I think the best comp would be just that performance of the night. It was last year in August, and he really out grappled Tybura and ultimately picked up the submission. So maybe there's something to that. Perhaps he can do that to Happy Schmiel, but I don't know, me boy. I do think that Schmiel will probably get this one done, and the fight against Martin Budai is what I guess gives me enough confidence to pick Gaziv over Polar Bear in this one. But Polar Bear, I think his back is up against the wall, and for me, this is probably make or break for him because I don't know. It seems like the recent L's don't spell good situations for him, and I worry that he could be off to become the next PFL champ if he does lose this fight over Gaziv. So I'm gonna go Gaziv officially by decision. Are you going Polar Bear by finish?
Yeah, I'm gonna go polar bear by submission.
Let us know in the comments who you're taking on that one. I got Gaziv, he's got Spivak, but swap us through. I'm curious if you're gonna pick a submission victory in this next one. Jack Hermanson, the Joker, is taking on Miktabek Oralby, and surprised by the odds in this one. Firstly, Oralby, plenty of respect. We've picked him many times. I think we've maybe even meat locked him before, but he's a minus 245 favorite against Jack the Joker, who is always a levels test, always a dude who reminds fans why he's such a high level fighter every other time he fights, right? It's like the last time we saw him, he just got smoked, easy light work by Robocop. People had picked him, however, because he had won the recent fight before that against Joe Pyfer, a fight where no one thought he was going to win. So it's like it seems like the public often misses Joker. He's alternating wins and losses. He's been doing that since 2019. The guy hasn't lost two straight, hasn't won two straight since those days. So in this one, he's taken on a obviously tough opponent in Oralby, who is on a nice tear himself and is a dude who does eat a lot of damage, but Jack the Joker isn't really one to inflict a ton of offensively striking damage. So in this fight, do you see Oralby being able to accumulate more strikes on Jack the Joker, or is Jack the Joker going to use his wrestling and overwhelm Oralby, who might be the smaller dude?
Yeah, man, I think this is definitely a tough fight. Horrible did just lose to Rabisti. Rabisti's been on a two-fight losing skid that's not aging well. While Jack, he's fought some of the best of the best, and he's beaten some of the best of the best, like Joe Pyfer. I mean, Jack beat the crap out of Joe Pyfer, which blew my mind. But then he gets snuffed by Rodriguez, which Rodriguez has freakish power. He's a 50-50 fighter. Loses to Bruno Ferreira, Armin Petrosian, Jared Cannonier, but any other time, I mean, he probably beats those guys. It's literally 50-50 with him. Um, but yeah, it's a tough one for me. I'm gonna lean Oralby because I'm a fan, but I could totally see Jack just outclassing and destroying, and outgritting him, just like how a humbling levels test it was for Joe Pyfer.
Yeah, great points. And one very interesting aspect of this competition is Jack Hermanson, right? Historically, always a middleweight, fought big dudes, Joe Pyfer, all of his fights, Gregory Rodriguez most recently. This is his 170 debut, right? Jack the Joker is going down for this one. And what do you make of that? Because he is 37. Sometimes when we see these big dudes cut so much weight, especially later in their career, they often get slept in the first 5 seconds. So are you at all worried about the potential brain dehydration that Jack the Joker might be entering the cage with? Or do you think that the weight cut will be good for him and he's going to be big, he's going to be used to these 185ers, and as a result can manhandle a guy in Meekdebeck? Which way do you see the weight cut going for Jack Hermanson? Is it a good thing or could it be bad?
Yeah, it definitely could be bad, but I could see him being a weight bully, and it actually becomes a pro for him. So I don't know, but I'm gonna lean that maybe it's bad, and maybe Earl is ready for that levels test and gets it done.
Yeah, 79% is rolling with Oralby. A lot of the backers think that he could finish Jack the Joker. I do worry about what the first 2 minutes of this fight looks like, because it could be one where, I mean, especially coming off a recent flatlining, devastating KO loss to Gregory Rodriguez, perhaps he isn't quite all there and something early, something stiff puts his lights out similarly. But I'm going to bank on the idea that Jack can survive those first few dangerous minutes and ultimately create a game plan that's advantageous to him. A lot of grappling, mixing things up, finding ways to get takedowns, and then keep Oralby down. Because if you remember, Rabisti landed a lot of strikes and was pretty effective with the grappling in that fight against Oralby. So I think Jack the Joker really needs to lean on that. Hopefully, be a weight bully like you said, and as a result, I'll ever so slightly go Jack the Joker. Maybe by late finishing this one. If you're taking, who are you taking? Are you taking Jack or are you taking Oralby?
I'm taking an just barely though. I could totally see Jack getting this done, but I gotta go with Earl I like the age, I like the youth, and he's lost before and he's bounced back. I think he'll bounce back potential on this one. This is a big level test, big opportunity for him.
Yeah, fair enough. Big levels test. You'll ever so slightly go Oralby. I'll ever so slightly go Jack the Joker. I do think maybe he picks up a late finish in this one, though. So I'm going to be checking out round three submission for Jack the Joker. If it's upwards of plus 2,500, might be worth a dink inspection. But nonetheless, we boys swap us through co-meet. Another one that I'm excited to get your perspective on. It's Ian Gary taking on Bilal Muhammad. And Bilal Muhammad obviously just lost his belt. JDM smoked him and suddenly finds himself as a plus 210 dog against Ian Gary, who's minus 280. I think might be a little inflated, and perhaps this is a dog opportunity because Bilal Muhammad, obviously, that's my boy. Been repping Bilal since day one. Day one Bilal repper, day 1000 Bilal repper. Still find myself alone, but either way, this one against Ian Gary, I think is great matchmaking because Ian Gary's on top of the world right now. angling for a title fight, and Bilal Muhammad's trying to get right back and reinsert himself in that same conversation because he obviously believes that he is not done. Ian Gary, however, obviously believes that he's the next one. So, what do you make of this co-meet? Are you taking Ian Gary as a fat favorite, or is Bilal going to show everyone, remind everyone what his name is?
Yeah, Bilal might remind everyone what his name is, but I don't know. This is, like I said, if Bilal grapples and tries to do what he does best, I don't see why this isn't going to be a Shavkat versus Ian Gary 2.0. If he tries to stand and bang like Sean Brady did last weekend, well, he's getting knocked out, that's for sure. So I'm very curious on how it's gonna go. I'm praying that Bilal is not compromised. I'm gonna take Bilal on this. Not that confident because I think everyone might be compromised at this point. We'll see. If Bilal ragdolls, then we still have hope. But yeah, I don't know. This is gonna be an interesting one. I'm very curious on if he attempts at all to take it to the ground.
Yeah, it's like, will he go for the takedown? Sean Brady didn't, but hey, Islam did, right? We always said that, Islam wouldn't do in the Jack Della fight what Bilal Muhammad did in the Jack Della fight. So Islam came through for us. Perhaps Bilal does the same, but there is that Sean Brady X factor where he might try to prove another point. Like, ooh, I wasn't able to outstrike JDM, but this time I'll outstrike Ian Gary. And like you said, if that somehow is the mindset, he's probably going to get slept for sure because Ian Gary is obviously solid on the feet. Not always putting every opponent out, but usually is outclassing fighters when they remain on the feet. So could be a bad news for him if that's the pathway. Are you at all worried though that if Bilal does rush for the takedowns like we anticipate him doing, is Ian Gary's defensive grappling going to hold up? Because this is a dude who has been stuffing takedowns. I mean, yes, he lost that fight against Shavkat, but he celebrated the victories. He was impressed with his own grappling, his survivability. Do you think that Ian Gary's skills at this point could be enough to stop the consistent takedowns of Bilal? And if that is the case, Bilal might be a shark out of water, or is Bilal's grappling going to be just slightly better or that much better than Ian Gary's defense?
Yeah, I gotta imagine that like wrestling is one of those things that you don't just learn over a season or two. It's one of those things that 10 plus years of grinding and really leveling up. Like Bilal's been grappling for beginning of his time. Ian Gary barely started grappling, so like Bilal's on a whole different level of grappling in my opinion, or at least he used to be. We'll see, I guess. Than even Rachmanov. So like if Shavkat can take him down at will, you best believe Bilal can absolutely take him down at will. I mean, Bilal was training with the Daggy boys and Islam. Yeah, you just don't mess with those guys. So this should be easy light work. But like I don't know, I could totally see Bilal just standing up and trying to fight again. So like I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, it's tough to call it for sure. Tapology is bullish on this fight going the distance. 74% going with Ian Gary, only 26% going with Bilal Muhammad. I agree. I think this fight is going to go the distance. And because I have that prediction, I fear that Bilal is not going to be able to win a decision in this one. I don't know. Something tells that Ian Gary, if this fight is close, is going to find himself on the right end of a decision. And because I struggle to see a world where Bilal gets a finish, I'm going to have to ever so slightly go with Ian Gary by decision, perhaps a Zuckery decision. But either way, I hate to pick against Bilal Muhammad. Not sure I ever even have, but I got to go Ian Gary by slight decision this one. Officially, what's your pick?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Bilal Muhammad via decision or submission end of the later rounds.
Yeah, go Bilal. Obviously, I'm rooting for him. That's my dude. For Meat Boy's sake, though, gotta take my fandom out of it and roll with Ian Gary by Zuck decision, unfortunately. But either way, Meat Boy should be a good fight, and hopefully someone gets a finish, right? Because if someone is able to pick up a finish in this one, Tapology doesn't see it happen. I doubt the UFC does. Maybe one of these dudes can steal the show and earn the next opportunity. And if Bilal's the one to get a finish, and somehow the UFC starts angling for Bilal Muhammad versus Islam, curious to see if they can make a story out of that one and if those two would even accept that matchup. But either way, Meat Boy, swap us through meat event. The fight that this card is booked around. Arman Sarukian is basically a 5-1 favorite against Dan Hooker, who every time you write him off, the dude sneaks into a victory. And pulls off a lot of nice wins in fights that people do not expect him to even be competitive in. So, in this one, I want to jump straight to it because if you made it this far, appreciate you, Meat Boys, and don't need to bore you with any context on Arman and Dan Hooker, two very strong fighters in the division. What do you make of this matchup? Are you surprised by the odds? And are you taking Dan Hooker as a fat dog to come through again?
Yeah, this is a crazy one. I'm just kind of mind blown that Dan Hooker's fighting Armin. I I just don't see how Dan Hooker's gonna win this, but also Dan's one of those guys that like he's a dog. Like he can knock Armin out. It would not surprise me if he knocks him out. I gotta take Armin on this though. Armin is no joke. If Armin does what he does best, he's gonna ragdoll him for the whole time. Probably decision, maybe submission, but I don't know. Dan's so dang tough. Too tough for his own good, in my opinion, to where I could see Dan getting a finish later in the rounds, or I could just see this being a sad, Islam 2.0 main event fight where it's like, oh, well, this is a wrap. This is easy light work for him. So I'm gonna pick Armin. I don't like the odds. I'm not that confident because Dan Hooker is upset king and he is there to have a war.
Yeah, a lot of questions that come to mind, me because the first idea is Dan Hooker, dude, seasoned, right? Has a million fights, has fought 5 rounds before. This is the first fight for Arman Tsarukyan, aka Al Halakalakalakalitz, to go 5 rounds, right? This is a dude who we've seen even in late round, third round situations, not necessarily be gassed, but be having featured less of a gas tank than he did earlier in the round. So my first question is, if this fight makes it to the fourth and fifth round, could that be an opportunity for Dan Hooker, or do you expect Arman to come in here gas tank dialed, ready to emulate his best Islam impression to what we just saw a couple days ago? Because I kind of think Dan Hooker might have the advantage late. Am I tripping on that? What are your thoughts on how the cardio holds up for Al Halakalakalits?
Yeah, I mean, Alcala, he's always got dialed in cardio, so I can't ever doubt him on there, in my opinion. But I don't know, I I just I don't see if Armin takes him down, he'll probably take him down at will. The only thing I worry about is Dan's a big boy, so I don't know. This is such an interesting matchup because I never would have thought these guys would fight, but now that they're about to fight, I'm just like, I mean, Armin should destroy on paper, but Dan's a big guy. I don't know, can Armin really ragdoll him? Like, it's hard to ragdoll a dude that's significantly bigger than you and potentially stronger, but we're gonna have to find out. I'm gonna pick Armin. I think Armin with infinite money glitch and infinite resources, he can just get the best gear, the best training, the best leveling up. So he should win on paper, but Dan's a dog, he's just I don't know, having these crazy backyard fights, just absolutely savage within his country, and so you can't ever can't count him out. That's what he has proven is you can't count the guy out. He's a savage.
He's a savage for sure, and has a couple screws loose. The dude is not afraid to engage in a war, and seems like the more damage you land on him, sometimes the better he somehow gets. And you touched on the size. 5'7" is Armin. Just over 6 foot is the Hangman. He'll obviously have a reach advantage as well. And that one recent opponent, most likely the best win for Dan Hooker, was the fight we just saw over Gamrot, where he was a fat dog. He picked up the win in the fight before that against Jalen Turner, again when he was a fat dog. And that fight against Gamrot, I was most impressed with because if we remember, Armin's lone blemish was that fight against Gamrot. You and I watched it at your crib. If you remember, super close. We thought perhaps Armin did win, but Gamrot got the W. I don't know. The fact that, again, we discuss MMA math all the time. We pick and choose when we want to reference it. But either way, it is interesting that Hooker was able to get that one done over Gamrot when, at least on paper, Armin was not. And then finally, are you at all concerned about Armin showing up? The last time he was booked for a meat event slot, he had a sore back. He's doing the 360 full back twists, trying to go viral with Nina Drama, and ultimately pulls out the day before. Any concerns that Armin doesn't show up on Saturday?
Yeah, you just never know. He might be doing more backflip twisty McTwisties with Nina Drama, So I don't know. Nothing would surprise me. The dude's I totally forgot about that. The dude's kind of a dork for that. Hopefully he shows up. I really hope this fight happens. I want to see him perform and see how good or worse better or worse he's getting. Should be interesting.
It's a great opportunity for him. The UFC is obviously trying to get him back in these high profile, high leverage situations. In this one, meat boy, I'm going to go Dan Hooker. I think he's going to find a way to get this one done. It's going to be ugly. He's going to have to go through the fire, but something tells me, to your point about the size, I just think Dan Hooker is going to be too big for Sarukian. And while, yes, Sarukian will have some early success, I see Dan Hooker landing a lot of strikes, cutting open Armin perhaps, and ultimately finding a way to get a late finish. However, if this fight goes the distance, I struggle to see a world where Dan Hooker will emerge on the right side of the judge's verdict, because he has been in two very close split decisions, two straight opportunities, and was on the right end. I don't think in the Arabian Peninsula he'll have that similar fate if it goes the distance. So I'm going to say round four or round five, YOLO finish for Dan Hooker. And I'm hoping for a war. I'm expecting a war, and I think a war always favors Dan Hooker. So am I tripping on going with the fat dog in this one?
No, not tripping because if a war happens, good chance that Hooker gets this. And I bet you the UFC would be happy if Dan Hooker wins this, to be honest. But I gotta stick with Armin until Armin, proves that he's a bum or something. I just can't fade him because Dan Hooker, he's definitely had some questionable losses, like Michael Chandler and stuff. So you just never know with that guy. So I can't pay, I can't ride that. But it's not the craziest.
Yeah, fair enough. Peak Michael Chandler sleeping homie Dan Hooker, not ideal for sure. But either way, I'll go with the slight dog in this one. Any last thoughts on this event? I feel like it's low-key kind of stacked. It's a coffee and breakfast ripper. Any last thoughts?
For a breakfast ripper on the kebabs on the grill, it's definitely a slapper.